Hey everyone, John Doyle from Optics EQ. In today's video race of the day, we're going to go to Louisiana, but we're not going to the fairgrounds. We're going to go to Delta Downs for race 4 on Wednesday, January 12th. And this is a race you want to kind of put in your toolbox because this is what I kind of label as a plot extreme. You don't see it too often, maybe 1 to 3 times a month. When you do, you got to take advantage of it. And it doesn't always pay, but you got to stick with this because I've seen some real bombers come out using this kind of method, looking at this kind of pattern. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out to you is the header and the plot fit, contention, speed rating. You can see the speed rating is high, the contention is high too. So especially a 78, that's real high. So that's the first thing. Typically, we like horses coming from off the pace, or at least squares, okay, coming from off the pace with those kinds of parameters in the plot. But what you normally don't see, and you see it here, is this cluster of circles in quadrant 1. That usually means there's kind of going to be some kind of meltdown on those horses, and we could be looking for off the pace horses, okay? So in this scenario, our off the pace horses, the PCs and Cs, are the 4, 5, 6, and 7. The 4 don't like the 4. Look how he's over here in quadrant 4 is a circle in the standard, and he's a circle in quadrant 1, a bigger circle in quadrant 1. He's not going to cut it. So what we're going to look at is the 5, 6, and 7, and we'll evaluate their form. Those are the ones we're going to look at in this kind of scenario. Just to note too that the 1 and the 1A is a coupled entry, and you can see that we have the same trainer and the same jockey. That could mean that one of these horses gets scratched out. So please, 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 after the scratches, reevaluate the plot, see if there's any changes. I'm not sure there will be, but there might be. So you want to reevaluate after that. Okay. So I'm going to go now to the grid and we're going to evaluate the 5, 6, and 7. Start with the number 5. He's 7-2. Okay. And he's coming back. I don't like this pattern, right? So he's 70 days, comes back off a layoff, runs a pretty good race in a stakes race. And the note is, or the projection is, this horse is probably better on turf, which he's kind of running the past really good in the evaluation turf. He comes back in 40 days and just runs a terrible race at like 3 to 5 or 2 to 5. I forgot what the 1 to 2. And he's just no running at all. Now he's coming back in 20 days. This is an 8-year-old. And this is not a horse I want to be betting. I'll be honest with you. Okay, 7-2, no value. I don't care what the pace scenario is or whatever, because even in last race, it seemed like the horse behind him actually closed because he had pace to run at. And if you could see when he wins, anyway, let's look at his wins. They equal to 1. He's really not a deep closer. You know, he's kind of a more of a presser type anyway, and you can see that again if we go back to the plot. It's kind of more of a, you see the 5. He's kind of a presser, and based on his form in recent race, I'm not going to be using him. Okay, so that's the thing. And then I'm going to go to number 7 because he was the other horse that looked pretty good, but he's got some negatives. Look at his last race. It was 100. It was off a 122-day layoff in a stakes race, and he wins. And then he gets laid off another 74 days. Not crazy about that pattern. And the other thing about this horse, let's look at his races. Today's distance is a route. Let's look at him. RTE, I'm going to, route. Look at his route races. This horse has only hit the board twice in 6 races routing. And note the note of the optics note back way in the day there. Sprinter, shorter. Okay. And so let's look at his sprints in comparison. This horse is almost like a wind machine sprint. He looks like a closing sprinter versus a closing router. Okay, so even though his square looks big, it looks like he's probably better just going shorter distance and closing into things. Now, in a situation with the way it looks like on the plot, he still looks good. But again, I'm going to downgrade him a little bit, and I'm going to look for somebody else in this case. So who else is kind of left for the closers after I evaluated 4 of them? The 6. Okay. And there's a couple things I really like about this horse. The first thing is he's lightly raced. Okay. So there's potential upside. Even though his figures look a little low, there's potential for upside. And his race, he's won routing, so we know that he's on this track. He broke his maiden on this track. Okay, back early last year. So you can see there's probably 10 or 12 points of upside with this horse. Now he's come back off a 318-day layoff. Okay, he ran a decent race, a solid second, solid B. The next time out, he kind of plotted around, okay, and then traffic in the last one. But look at, I want to show you something which is going to be a change for him today. Look at the pace shape, the race shapes he's been having to deal with for the most part. Slow, very slow. Well, he ain't going to get that today. He's going to get some pace to run at. So if we can kind of project him to move forward on this race, and given the pace scenario, that 78, like I said, again, he ran this 71 way back, and he's when he was a 3-year-old, early in his first month. So if you just typically take like 1.5 points a month, that's like 12 months. So this horse could run in the 80s, mid 80s, and I think that's what it's going to take, because this is the figure range of the race, mid 80s to win this race. So he's a bomber in this race. He's 20-1 in the morning line. This is a horse I'm going to be using in all slots and try to upset the apple cart. And so I would reevaluate some of the early pace horses if you want to use in exotics with this horse, but I'm using this horse in first, second, and third in the exotics. Chief Cheetah at 20-1 Delta Downs on Wednesday, January 12th, showing you how to use Plot Extremes for our Optics products. And if you want to learn more about Optics products, go to OptixEQ.com. I got some good feedback. I'm going to have some guest people working with me, some clients who are going to be joining me on Video Race Today in the future. So if you're interested in doing that, just send us a note at OptixEQ.com. Just use the contact form. And thanks for listening.